The sun was setting over the small town of Cedar Ridge, painting the dusty streets in shades of orange and gold. Lucy walked slowly down the main road, her worn boots barely making a sound on the dirt path. Her stomach twisted with hunger, reminding her that she hadn't eaten a proper meal in 3 whole days. She stopped in front of Murphy's saloon, the only place in town still serving food at this hour. Through the grimy windows, she could see men sitting around tables, eating hearty meals and drinking. The smell of beef stew drifted out every time someone opened the door, making her mouth water. Lucy reached into her small bag and pulled out the only valuable thing she owned, a silver locket that had belonged to her grandmother. The metal was smooth and cool in her palm, worn from years of being touched and cherished. Inside was a tiny photograph of her parents, taken just before they died, from the terrible sickness that swept through their town back east. This locket was all she had left of her family. It was her most precious possession, the one thing that connected her to the people she loved. But hunger was a powerful force, and Lucy knew she couldn't go much longer without food. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the heavy wooden doors of the saloon. The room was filled with smoke and the sound of men talking and laughing. Several pairs of eyes turned to look at her as she walked in. A young woman alone in a saloon wasn't a common sight in a place like Cedar Ridge. Lucy walked up to the bar where a large man with a thick mustache was wiping down glasses. His name was Murphy and he owned this place. She had heard he was a fair man but also a businessman who didn't give anything away for free. "Evening, miss," Murphy said, looking at her with curious eyes. "What can I do for you?" Lucy's hands shook as she placed the silver locket on the wooden bar counter. The sound it made seemed louder than everything else in the room. "Sir, I was wondering if you might take this in trade for some food." Murphy picked up the locket and held it up to the light. He opened it and saw the photograph inside. "This is nice work," he said, examining the silver carefully. "Real silver, I'd say. Where did you get this?" "It was my grandmother's," Lucy said quietly. "She gave it to me before she passed away. It's got my parents' picture inside." Murphy nodded and continued to look at the locket. Lucy could see him thinking, probably trying to figure out how much it was worth. Her heart was beating fast as she waited for his answer. "I could give you a bowl of stew and some bread for it," he finally said. "But that's about all it's worth to me." Lucy felt her heart sink. 1 bowl of stew for her most precious possession? It seemed so unfair. But what choice did she have? She was tired, hungry, and had nowhere else to go. Just as she was about to nod and accept the deal, a voice from the end of the bar spoke up. "Hold on there, Murphy." Lucy turned to see a man standing up from his seat. He was tall and lean, with sun-weathered skin that spoke of years working outdoors. His hat was pushed back on his head, showing brown hair that was starting to turn gray at the sides. His clothes were simple but clean, the kind a working man would wear. The man walked over to where Lucy stood at the bar. His boots made a steady sound on the wooden floor as he approached. When he got closer, Lucy could see kind eyes looking at her with something that seemed like understanding. "Name's Tom," he said, tipping his hat slightly. "Tom Bennett. And you look like someone who could use a friend right about now." Lucy didn't know what to say. She had learned to be careful around strangers, especially men she didn't know. But there was something about Tom that didn't seem threatening. Maybe it was the gentle way he spoke, or the fact that he didn't seem to be looking at her like she was something to be taken advantage of. Tom reached out and gently pushed the locket back toward Lucy. "Keep that safe," he said. "It belongs with you, not on some stranger's shelf." Then he turned to Murphy. "Bring this young lady a full meal. The beef stew, some fresh bread, maybe some of those potatoes you've got cooking in the back, and a cup of coffee to go with it." Murphy looked confused. "Who's paying for all that?" Tom reached into his pocket and placed some coins on the bar. "I am." Lucy stared at him in surprise. "Sir, I can't let you do that. I don't even know you." Tom smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made his whole face look friendlier. "Well, that's easy enough to fix. We can get to know each other while you eat. But first things first, you need food in you. You look like you haven't had a proper meal in days. 3 days, Lucy admitted quietly. Tom's expression became more serious. 3 days? No wonder you're ready to trade away something so important. Nobody should have to go that long without eating. Murphy was already moving around behind the bar getting Lucy's meal ready. The smell of the food made her stomach growl loudly, which made her cheeks turn red with embarrassment. Don't be embarrassed about being hungry, Tom said as if he could read her thoughts. It happens to good people sometimes. The important thing is getting you fed. As Murphy set a steaming bowl of stew in front of her, along with a thick slice, of fresh bread and a cup of hot coffee, Lucy felt tears starting to form in her eyes. When was the last time someone had shown her such kindness? When was the last time someone had helped her without wanting something in return? Eat up, Tom said, settling back into his chair next to her. Take your time. We'll talk after you've gotten some food in you. Lucy picked up the spoon with shaking hands. The first taste of the stew was like heaven. The beef was tender, the vegetables were perfectly cooked, and the broth was rich and warming. She tried to eat slowly and politely, but her hunger was so strong that she found herself eating faster than she meant to. Tom didn't seem to mind. He sat quietly, occasionally sipping his drink, giving her space to eat without feeling watched or judged. Every now and then he would make a small comment about the weather or ask Murphy about how business was going, just to fill the silence and make Lucy feel less like the center of attention. As Lucy ate, she found herself stealing glances at this stranger who had shown her such unexpected kindness. Tom Bennett. She repeated the name in her head, trying to figure out why someone would help her like this. In her experience, people usually wanted something in return when they helped. But Tom seemed different somehow. The warmth of the food began to spread through her body, and for the first time in days, Lucy felt like maybe everything would be okay. She carefully closed the locket and put it back in her bag, safe where it belonged. When she finally finished eating, she looked up at Tom. Thank you, she said simply. I don't know how to repay you for this. Tom shook his head. No need to repay anything. Sometimes people just need help, and when we can give it, we should. Lucy realized that this moment, sitting in a warm saloon, with food in her stomach and a kind stranger beside her, was about to change everything. She didn't know how yet, but she could feel it. Sometimes life surprised you with unexpected kindness, and this felt like one of those times. Outside, the sun had fully set, and the town of Cedar Ridge was settling into evening quiet. But inside Murphy's saloon, a conversation was about to begin that would change Lucy's life forever. After Lucy finished her meal, she felt more human than she had in days. The warmth of the food had spread through her entire body, and her mind felt clearer now that she wasn't constantly thinking about hunger. She looked across at Tom, who was patiently waiting for her to finish, never rushing her or making her feel uncomfortable. That was the best meal I've had in a long time, Lucy said, wiping her mouth with the cloth napkin Murphy had provided. I really can't thank you enough. Tom smiled and leaned back in his chair. You don't need to keep thanking me. I'm just glad to see you looking better. You've got some color back in your cheeks now. It was true. When Lucy had walked into the saloon, her face had been pale and drawn from hunger and exhaustion. Now she looked more like the healthy young woman she really was. So, Tom said gently, if you don't mind me asking, what brings you to Cedar Ridge? This isn't exactly a place people just wander into by accident. Lucy hesitated for a moment. She had learned to be careful about sharing too much information with strangers. But Tom had just shown her incredible kindness, and something about him made her feel like she could trust him. I came from back east, she began slowly, from a little town in Ohio called Millfield. My family had a small farm there, and I worked as a teacher in the local school. Tom nodded, encouraging her to continue. About 6 months ago, a terrible sickness came through our town. Cholera, the doctor called it. It spread so fast that people barely had time to understand what was happening. Lucy's voice became quieter as she remembered those awful days. My parents both got sick and died within a week of each other. I'm sorry, Tom said simply. That must have been terrible. It was. But it got worse. The farm had to be sold to pay off debts, and the school closed down because so many families had either died or left town. I had nothing left there, so I decided to come west. I heard there were opportunities out here for teachers. Tom listened carefully, his expression showing that he understood how difficult this must have been for her. I had saved up some money from my teaching job, and I thought it would be enough to get me started somewhere new. But 2 towns back, I was staying at a boarding house and someone stole my bag while I was sleeping. They took everything. My money, my spare clothes, even the small amount of food I had with me. "That's why you haven't eaten in 3 days," Tom said. Lucy nodded. "I've been walking from town to town hoping to find work, but most places either don't need a teacher or they want to see references and credentials that I don't have with me anymore. I was getting desperate." She touched the spot on her dress where she kept the locket. "This locket is literally the only valuable thing I have left. It was going to be my last resort." Tom was quiet for a moment, seeming to think about what she had told him. Finally, he spoke. "Lucy, can I ask you something?" She nodded. "What kind of subjects did you teach back in Ohio?" "Reading, writing, and arithmetic mostly. But I also taught some history and geography. I loved working with children and helping them learn new things." Tom's eyes seemed to light up a little. "And you said you can handle correspondence and bookkeeping?" "Oh yes, definitely. I kept all the records for the school and I helped my father with the farm's accounts. I'm quite good with numbers and organizing information." Tom leaned forward slightly. "Lucy, I think I might have a solution to your problem. But first, let me tell you a little about myself." Lucy listened carefully as Tom began to share his own story. "I own a ranch about 10 miles south of here. It's called the Double B Ranch. That stands for Bennett Brothers, though it's just me now. My brother passed away a few years back." Tom's voice carried a note of sadness when he mentioned his brother, but he continued. "I raise cattle mostly, with some horses. It's good land, and the business does well enough." "That sounds like a good life," Lucy said. "It is, but it's also a lot of work. And lately I've been struggling with some of the business side of things. I'm good with cattle and horses, but I'm not so good with paperwork and keeping track of all the details that come with running a ranch." Tom paused to take a sip of his drink before continuing. "I've been looking for someone to help me with the bookkeeping, writing letters to buyers, keeping track of supplies and expenses, that sort of thing. I also have a 10-year-old nephew who lives with me. His name is Billy and he's a bright boy, but he needs help with his schooling. I do my best, but I'm not a teacher." Lucy felt her heart start to beat a little faster. Was Tom suggesting what she thought he was suggesting? "The thing is," Tom continued, "I've been to the bigger towns looking for someone to hire, but most people who can do that kind of work don't want to live way out on a ranch. And the few who might be interested want wages that I can't really afford right now." He looked directly at Lucy. "But you're different. You need a place to stay and work to do. I need help with exactly the things you're good at. It seems like maybe we could help each other out." Lucy felt a mix of hope and caution. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that you come work for me at the ranch. You'd have your own room in the house, all your meals provided, and a fair wage on top of that. In return, you'd help me with the ranch's paperwork and teach Billy his lessons. It wouldn't be charity. You'd be earning your keep and then some." Lucy stared at him. "You're serious?" "Completely serious. I've been praying for months that I'd find someone who could help me with these things. And here you are with exactly the skills I need sitting right next to me." "But you don't even really know me," Lucy protested. "How do you know I'm trustworthy? How do you know I'm actually good at the things I say I can do?" Tom smiled. "Well, for one thing, you were willing to trade away your most precious possession just to get some food rather than steal or do something dishonest. That tells me a lot about your character. For another, the way you talk about your teaching and your family, I can tell you're educated and decent." He paused. "And honestly, Lucy, I'm a pretty good judge of people. I've had to be, in my line of work. I deal with cattle buyers and horse traders and all sorts of folks. You strike me as someone who's honest and hard-working." Lucy felt tears forming in her eyes again, but these were different from the tears she'd felt earlier These were tears of relief and gratitude. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll think about it," Tom replied. "You don't have to decide right now, but I'm heading back to the ranch tomorrow morning. If you want to come with me just to see the place and meet Billy, you're welcome to. No commitments, just a chance to see if it might work for both of us." Lucy looked around the saloon, thinking about her options. She could stay in Cedar Ridge and hope something else came along, but what were the chances of that? She could keep traveling from town to town, but she had no money and no way to survive much longer. Or she could take a chance on this kind stranger who seemed to have appeared at exactly the right moment. "All right," she said finally. "I'll come see your ranch tomorrow, but I want to be clear. If it doesn't seem like a good fit for either of us, I won't take it personally if you change your mind." Tom extended his hand to shake hers. "Deal. And the same goes for you. If you don't like what you see, no hard feelings." As they shook hands, Lucy felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe her luck was finally starting to change. Outside, the sounds of Cedar Ridge settling down for the night drifted through the saloon windows. Tomorrow would bring new possibilities. And for the first time since she'd left Ohio, Lucy felt like she might actually have a future worth looking forward to. The next morning dawned clear and bright, with a gentle breeze that carried the promise of a beautiful day. Lucy had spent the night in a small room above Murphy's store, which the kind saloon owner had let her use for free after Tom had vouched for her character. She was awake early, partly from excitement and partly from nervousness about what the day might bring. After washing her face and doing her best to make herself presentable with her limited belongings, she made her way downstairs to find Tom already waiting for her. "Morning, Lucy," he said with a warm smile. "I hope you slept well." "Better than I have in weeks," she replied honestly. "Thank you again for arranging the room." Tom was standing next to a sturdy wagon hitched to two strong-looking horses. The wagon bed was loaded with various supplies, sacks of grain, tools, and other items that Lucy assumed were needed for ranch work. "These are for the ranch," Tom explained, noticing her looking at the supplies. "I come to town about once a month to get everything we need. Today just happened to work out perfectly." He helped her climb up onto the wagon seat beside him, and soon they were rolling out of Cedar Ridge and into the open countryside. The morning air was fresh and clean, so different from the dusty, crowded feeling of the town. As they traveled, Tom pointed out various landmarks and told her about the area. "That hill over there is called Lookout Point," he said, gesturing toward a rocky outcrop in the distance. "On a clear day you can see for miles in every direction from up there. Billy and I like to ride up there sometimes, especially in the evening when the sunset makes everything look golden." Lucy found herself relaxing as they rode. Tom was easy to talk to, and he seemed genuinely interested in making her feel comfortable. The countryside was beautiful, with rolling hills covered in grass and wildflowers and occasional clusters of trees that provided shade and shelter. "Tell me about Billy," Lucy said as they bounced along the dirt road. "What's he like?" Tom's face lit up when he talked about his nephew. "Billy's a great kid. He's curious about everything and always asking questions. Sometimes I think he asks more questions in a day than I can answer in a week." He chuckled. "His father, my brother James, died when Billy was just 6 years old. Billy's mother had passed away when he was born, so James was raising him alone. When James got sick, he asked me to take care of Billy, and I was honored to do it." "That must have been a big change for you," Lucy said. "It was, but it was also the best thing that ever happened to me. Billy brought life and laughter into the ranch house. Before he came, it was just me rattling around in that big place, eating beans from a can and talking to the horses." Tom's expression became more serious. "The thing is, I worry about his education. I do my best to teach him what I can, but I never had much schooling myself. I can read and write and do basic arithmetic, but Billy is smart enough that he needs more than that." "What kinds of things is he interested in?" Lucy asked. "Everything, it seems like. He loves animals, of course. He's got a real way with horses and cattle. But he's also fascinated by maps and geography. He's always asking about places he's heard of and wanting to know what they're like. And he loves stories, especially adventure stories about cowboys and explorers." As they talked, Lucy found herself getting excited about the possibility of teaching Billy. It sounded like he was exactly the kind of student she had always enjoyed working with, curious, eager to learn, and full of questions. "There's something else you should know about Billy," Tom said. "He can be a little shy around strangers at first. He hasn't had much contact with women since he came to live with me. But once he gets to know you, he'll probably talk your ear off." "That's perfectly understandable," Lucy said. "Many children are cautious around new people. It's actually a sign that he's been well cared for and taught to be careful." They rode, in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the peaceful sounds of the countryside, birds singing, the gentle creak of the wagon, and the steady clip-clop of the horse's hooves. "Can I ask you something personal?" Tom said eventually. "Of course. Back in Ohio, did you ever think about getting married? I mean, most women your age are already married with children." Lucy was quiet for a moment before answering. "I was engaged, once to a man named David who worked at the bank in town. We were planning to be married in the spring after my parents died. What happened? When the sickness came and my parents passed away, David changed his mind about marrying me. He said it was too risky to marry someone who might be carrying the disease, but I think the real reason was that he realized I wouldn't have any inheritance or family support. He wanted a wife who could bring something to the marriage besides just herself." Tom's expression darkened. "That's a sorry excuse for a man. I was hurt at the time, but now I think it was probably for the best. If he could abandon me so easily when things got difficult, he wouldn't have been much of a husband anyway." "That's a wise way to look at it," Tom said. "Still, it must have been painful." "It was, but it also taught me something important about relying on myself and not depending on others for my happiness and security." They were climbing a gentle hill now, and when they reached the top, Tom pulled the wagon to a stop. "There it is," he said proudly. "The Double B Ranch." Lucy looked down into the valley below and caught her breath. The ranch was beautiful, with a large, well-built house surrounded by several outbuildings and corrals. Cattle dotted the pastures, and she could see horses grazing in a fenced area near the barn. A stream wound through the property, creating a ribbon of green trees and grass that contrasted beautifully with the golden hills. "Oh my," she said softly. "It's lovely." "James and I built most of it ourselves," Tom said. "Took us nearly 10 years to get it looking like this. The house is solid, built to last through anything the weather can throw at it." As they drove down into the valley, Lucy could see more details. The house was 2 stories, painted white with green shutters, and it had a wide porch that wrapped around the front and one side. There were flower beds near the house, though they looked like they needed some attention. "I'm afraid I'm not much of a gardener," Tom said, noticing where she was looking. "Those flowers were James's wife's pride and joy, but I can barely keep them alive." "I'd be happy to help with them," Lucy said. "My mother had a beautiful garden, and she taught me quite a bit about growing things." As they pulled up in front of the house, the front door opened and a boy came running out. This had to be Billy. He looked to be about 10 years old, with brown hair and bright, curious eyes that reminded Lucy of Tom's. "Uncle Tom," Billy called, out. "You're back. Did you get the new bridle you promised me?" "I did indeed," Tom said, climbing down from the wagon. "But first, Billy, I want you to meet someone special. This is Miss Lucy, and she might be coming to stay with us for a while." Billy stopped running and stood still, suddenly shy as he looked at Lucy. She climbed down from the wagon and walked over to him slowly, not wanting to overwhelm him. "Hello, Billy," she said gently. "Your uncle has told me so many nice things about you. I'm very pleased to meet you." Billy looked up at Tom, who nodded encouragingly. "It's nice to meet you too, Miss Lucy," Billy said politely, though he stayed close to his uncle. "Billy, why don't you help me unload these supplies?" Tom suggested, "and then we can show Miss Lucy around the ranch." As they worked together to unload the wagon, Lucy watched the interaction between Tom and Billy. It was clear that they had a strong, loving relationship. Tom was patient and encouraging, and Billy was eager to help and please his uncle. "Missy, Lucy, Billy said as they carried supplies into the house. Uncle Tom said you used to be a teacher. Did you really teach children how to read and write? I did, Lucy said. I taught children from ages 6 to 14. It was my favorite job in the whole world. Billy's eyes got wide. Could you teach me some things? Uncle Tom does his best, but he says I need to learn more than he knows how to teach. Lucy looked at Tom, who nodded. I'd be delighted to teach you, Billy. What would you like to learn about? Everything, Billy said with enthusiasm. I want to know about other countries and what makes the weather change and how to write, really. Good stories and... He paused, suddenly embarrassed by his own excitement. Lucy smiled. Those are all wonderful things to want to learn about. If I stay here, we could study all of those subjects and more. As they finished unloading the wagon and Tom showed her around the house, Lucy felt more and more convinced that this could be the perfect situation for everyone involved. The house was comfortable and well-maintained, her room would be spacious and private, and Billy was exactly the kind of bright, eager student she loved working with. But most importantly, Tom seemed like a genuinely good man who was offering her not just a job, but a chance to become part of a family again. After months of feeling lost and alone, the possibility of belonging somewhere felt almost too good to be true. As the sun began to set over the beautiful valley, Lucy realized that her journey west, which had started with such tragedy and hardship, might finally be leading her to exactly where she was meant to be. 3 weeks had passed since Lucy arrived at the Double B Ranch, and already it felt more like home than anywhere she had lived since leaving Ohio. Each morning, she woke up in her comfortable room on the second floor of the ranch house with sunlight streaming through the windows and the sound of birds singing in the trees outside. Her daily routine had settled into a pleasant rhythm that made her feel useful and valued. After breakfast, which she had begun preparing for Tom and Billy, she would spend the morning hours working on the ranch's business correspondence and bookkeeping. Tom had been right when he said he needed help with the paperwork side of things. There were months of disorganized records to sort through, invoices that needed to be sent out, and letters from cattle buyers that required careful responses. Lucy discovered that she genuinely enjoyed this work. There was something satisfying about bringing order to chaos, about making sure every transaction was properly recorded and every business relationship was maintained with clear professional communication. Tom was amazed at how quickly she was able to organize everything and get the ranch's finances straightened out. I can't believe how much clearer everything looks now, he said one morning, as Lucy showed him a neat ledger book where she had recorded all the ranch's income and expenses. I was just keeping everything in a shoebox and hoping I'd remember what was what. It's much easier to make good business decisions when you can see exactly where you stand financially, Lucy replied. And I've noticed that several of your buyers haven't been paying their full amounts on time. I've been sending them polite but firm letters requesting payment. Tom shook his head in wonder. I was always terrible at asking for money, even when it was owed to me. I figured if I waited long enough, people would eventually pay up. Some will, but others need a gentle reminder. It's not rude to expect payment for services rendered. It's just good business. The afternoons were dedicated to Billy's education, and this had become Lucy's favorite part of each day. The boy was every bit as bright and curious as Tom had described, and he soaked up new information like a sponge. They started each lesson by reviewing what Billy already knew, and Lucy was pleased to discover that Tom had actually done a good job with the basics. Billy could read simple books, write in a clear hand, and handle arithmetic problems that would challenge many children his age. But Lucy could see immediately where there were gaps in his education that she could fill. His knowledge of geography was limited to the local area. He had never learned any history beyond family stories, and he had no exposure to literature beyond the simple adventure stories Tom occasionally brought home from town. Today I thought we might look at this, Lucy said one afternoon, spreading a large map of the United States across the kitchen table. Billy's eyes grew wide with fascination. Is this where we live? He asked, pointing to a spot in the western part of the map. Very close, Lucy said, showing him the exact location. And this is where I came from, she added, pointing to Ohio. Billy traced the route with his finger. That's so far. You must have been traveling for weeks and weeks. I was. And along the way, I saw many different kinds of places. Big cities, small farming towns, rivers, mountains, and wide open plains like we have here. For the next hour, Billy peppered her with questions about every state on the map. What did the people there do for work? What did the land look like? What kinds of animals lived there? Lucy answered every question she could and made notes about the ones she couldn't, promising to find the answers for their next lesson. "You know, Billy," she said as they rolled up the map, "learning about geography isn't just about memorizing names of places. It helps you understand how people live and work and what challenges they face." "What do you mean?" "Well, think about our ranch here. Why do you think Uncle Tom chose this particular valley for raising cattle?" Billy thought for a moment. "Because there's water from the stream and lots of grass for the cattle to eat." "Exactly. And those are the same things people all over the world look for when they're deciding where to settle. Good land, fresh water, and resources they need to make a living." Billy nodded thoughtfully. "So geography is like understanding why things are the way they are?" Lucy smiled. "That's a very good way to put it." In the evenings, after supper was finished and the dishes were done, the three of them would often sit on the front porch and talk. These were some of Lucy's favorite times, when the work of the day was done, and they could simply enjoy each other's company. Tom would tell stories about the ranch's early days when he and his brother were young men with big dreams and very little money. Billy would share what he had learned that day and ask endless questions about everything from why stars twinkle to how far away the mountains were. And Lucy found herself sharing more about her own life than she had with anyone since leaving Ohio. She told them about her parents and their small farm, about her favorite students from the school where she taught, and about the dreams she had once had for her future. "Do you miss it?" Tom asked one evening. "Your old life, I mean." Lucy considered the question carefully. "I miss my parents terribly, and I miss some of the people I knew. But the life itself? No, I don't think I do. That life was smaller somehow, more limited. Here I feel like I'm able to use all of my skills and abilities in ways I never could before." "What do you mean?" "Well, back in Ohio I was just a teacher. That was my job, and it was a good job, but it was all I was allowed to be. Here, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a bookkeeper and a business correspondent and a gardener and—" She paused, looking at the two people who had become so important to her. "And I'm part of a family again." Tom and Billy both smiled at that, and Lucy felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the evening air. "Can I ask you something, Miss Lucy?" Billy said. "Of course." "Are you going to stay with us forever?" Lucy felt her heart skip a beat. It was a question she had been thinking about more and more as the days passed, but she hadn't been sure how to bring it up with Tom. "Would you like me to stay forever?" she asked gently. "Yes," Billy said, without hesitation. "You're the best teacher ever, and you make Uncle Tom smile more than he used to, and you make the best biscuits in the whole world." Lucy laughed. "Well, those are all very good reasons." She looked at Tom, who had been listening to this conversation with interest. "What do you think, Tom? Would you like me to stay permanently?" Tom was quiet for a moment, and Lucy wondered if she had been too forward in asking. But then he smiled, and it was the warmest smile she had ever seen. "Lucy, I was hoping you'd want to stay, but I didn't want to assume anything. You've brought something to this place, to our lives, that was missing before. Billy's learning more than I ever could have taught him. The ranch business is running smoother than it ever has. And—" He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "And?" Lucy prompted gently. "And you feel like the sister I never had and Billy never had. You feel like the missing piece of our family." Lucy felt tears spring to her eyes. "That's exactly how I feel too. Like I've found where I belong." Billy jumped up from his chair and hugged Lucy tightly. "So you'll stay? Really and truly?" "Really and truly," Lucy said, hugging him back. As they sat together on the porch that evening, watching the sun set over the valley and making plans for the future, Lucy marveled at how much her life had changed in just a few short weeks. She had arrived at the Double B Ranch as a desperate stranger, with nothing but the clothes on her back and a silver locket. Now she was home, with people who valued her for who she was and what she could contribute, rather than what she could trade away. She had work that challenged and fulfilled her, a bright young student who reminded her why she loved teaching, and a friend in Tom who had shown her that there were still good, kind people in the world. The silver locket still hung around her neck, but it was no longer her most precious possession. Her most precious possession was the sense of belonging she had found here, the knowledge that she was needed and wanted and valued. As the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Lucy knew with absolute certainty that her journey west, which had begun with such loss and hardship, had led her to exactly where she was meant to be. 6 months had passed since that desperate evening, when Lucy first walked into Murphy's saloon, clutching her grandmother's locket and hoping to trade it for a meal. Now, as she stood in the kitchen of the ranch house preparing breakfast for her family, it felt like a lifetime ago. The transformation had been remarkable both for Lucy and for the Double B Ranch itself. What had once been a somewhat chaotic operation run by a well-meaning but overwhelmed single man had become a smooth, efficient business that was thriving under Lucy's organizational skills and attention to detail. The ranch's financial records were now meticulously kept, with every transaction properly documented and all correspondence handled promptly and professionally. Tom's cattle sales had increased significantly, partly because Lucy had researched new markets and helped him establish relationships with buyers who paid better prices. She had also implemented a system for tracking the health and breeding records of all their animals, which helped them make better decisions about which cattle to keep and which to sell. "I still can't believe how much more money we're making," Tom said one morning as they reviewed the monthly financial summary Lucy had prepared. "And it's not just because of good luck with cattle prices. It's because we're running this place like a real business now." "You were already doing all the hard work," Lucy replied. "I just helped you get organized so you could see the results of your efforts more clearly." But the changes went far beyond just business improvements. The entire atmosphere of the ranch had transformed. The house, which had been clean but somewhat sparse and masculine, now felt like a real home. Lucy had added small touches throughout: fresh flowers from the garden she had restored, curtains she had sewn for the windows, and comfortable cushions for the chairs on the front porch. More importantly, the relationships between the three of them had deepened into something that felt truly like family. Billy had blossomed under Lucy's patient teaching, advancing far beyond what anyone might have expected for a boy his age living in such a remote location. "Miss Lucy, look at this," Billy called out one afternoon, running into the kitchen with a book under his arm. "I finished the whole thing." Lucy looked at the book he was holding, a collection of adventure stories that would have challenged many adults. "The entire book? Billy, that's wonderful. What was your favorite story?" "The one about the explorer who got lost in the Amazon jungle," Billy said excitedly. "It made me want to learn more about South America. Do you think we could study that next week?" "Absolutely. We can look at maps of South America and learn about the different countries there and the Amazon River and all the amazing animals that live in the jungle." Billy's enthusiasm for learning seemed to grow stronger every day. He had progressed, from simple readers to complex literature, from basic arithmetic to solving mathematical problems that impressed even Lucy. But more than that, he had developed confidence in himself and his abilities. "You know," Tom said to Lucy one evening after Billy had gone to bed, "that boy is going to be ready for college before too long, the way he's learning with you." "He's exceptionally bright," Lucy agreed. "And he has something even more valuable than intelligence. He has curiosity and determination. Those qualities will take him far in life." "Thanks to you. Before you came, I was worried that he'd never get the education he deserved out here." Lucy smiled. "Billy would have succeeded no matter what. He has too much spirit and too much support from you to fail. I just helped point him in the right direction." The success of Billy's education had led to an unexpected development. Word had spread among the neighboring ranches about the excellent teaching Lucy was providing, and several families had approached her about tutoring their children as well. "Mrs. Henderson rode over yesterday," Lucy told Tom one morning. She wants to know if I'd be willing to teach her 3 children along with Billy, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Tom looked interested. What did you tell her? I said I'd think about it and discuss it with you. It would mean extra income, but it would also mean more work and less time for the ranch bookkeeping. What would you like to do? Tom asked. Lucy had been thinking about this question a lot. I think I'd like to try it. Teaching is what I love most, and these children need education just as much as Billy does. Maybe we could set up a little schoolroom in the barn loft. There's plenty of space up there and it gets good light. Within a month, Lucy had 5 students coming to the ranch 3 times a week for lessons. The Henderson children, a shy girl, named Katie from the neighboring ranch, and Billy all gathered in the converted loft space that Tom had helped Lucy transform into a proper classroom. It's like having our own little school, Billy said proudly to one of his new classmates. Miss Lucy is the best teacher in the whole territory. The school was a success beyond anyone's expectations. The children were eager to learn, and their parents were amazed at how quickly they progressed under Lucy's guidance. More importantly for Lucy, it gave her the sense of purpose and fulfillment that she had missed since leaving her teaching job in Ohio. But perhaps the most significant change was in the relationship between Lucy and Tom himself. What had started as a business arrangement between strangers had evolved into a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared values. They worked together seamlessly, whether they were discussing ranch business, planning Billy's education, or simply talking about their hopes and dreams for the future. Tom had come to rely on Lucy's judgment and wisdom, while Lucy had found in Tom a partner who valued her opinions and supported her ambitions. I've been thinking, Tom said one evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Billy was inside, reading by lamplight, and the peaceful sounds of the ranch settling down for the night surrounded them. About what? Lucy asked. About how different everything is now, compared to 6 months ago. Not just the business side of things, though, that's been amazing. I mean everything. The way this place feels, the way Billy's growing and learning, the way He paused, seeming to search for the right words. The way you what? Lucy prompted gently. The way I look forward to each day now. Before you came, I was just existing, I guess. Getting through each day, doing what needed to be done, but not really living. Now I wake up excited about what the day might bring. Lucy felt her heart flutter a little. Over the months, she had become increasingly aware that her feelings for Tom had deepened beyond simple friendship and gratitude. He was a good man, kind, hardworking, honest, and devoted to Billy. He treated her as an equal partner rather than just an employee, and he had never made her feel like she owed him anything beyond fair work, for fair pay. I know what you mean, she said softly. I feel the same way. Tom turned to look at her directly. Lucy, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think you'll ever want to get married again? I mean, to someone new? Lucy's heart began beating. Faster. I was never married before, remember? I was only engaged. Right, of course. But do you think you'd want to get married someday? Lucy looked at Tom's earnest face in the fading light. I think I would. With the right person, someone who would be a true partner, not just someone looking for a housekeeper or a business arrangement. Tom nodded slowly. Someone who would love you for who you are, not just for what you could do for them. Exactly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both seeming to understand that something important was being discussed without being directly stated. Finally, Tom spoke again. Lucy, what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to work up the courage to say is, I've come to care for you a great deal. More than just as a friend or business partner. Lucy's breath caught in her throat. Tom, I know this might be presumptuous of me, he continued quickly. I know you came here looking for work, not looking for a husband. And I don't want you to feel pressured or like you owe me anything. But I also don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering what might have happened if I never told you how I feel. Lucy reached over and took his hand. Tom, I care for you too. More than I probably should have admitted to myself until just now. Tom's face lit up with hope. Really? Really? You've shown me what it means to be valued and respected. You've given me a home and a family and work that I love. But more than that, you've shown me what a truly good man looks like. Does that mean... Would you consider... That is, would you maybe think about marrying me? Tom asked, stumbling over the words in his nervousness. Lucy smiled, remembering the frightened, desperate woman she had been 6 months ago, willing to trade away her most precious possession just for a meal. Now her most precious possession wasn't something she could hold in her hands. It was the love and belonging she had found with Tom and Billy. Yes, she said simply. Yes, I would love to marry you. Tom's face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen from him. Really? You mean it? I mean it completely. From inside the house, they heard Billy's voice calling out, Uncle Tom, Miss Lucy, come look at this picture in my book. They looked at each other and laughed. I guess we should go see what Billy has discovered now, Lucy said. In a minute, Tom said. First, I want to ask you something else. When we get married, would you like to keep teaching the other children? I know.